Hey guys, it's been a while since you've seen my pretty face. Aging gracefully, right? Anyway, I wanted to give you guys a few thoughts I had for any of those followers that prefer to remain unnamed. Um, I continue to speak with law enforcement throughout the state. I actually love doing it. It's something that is awesome. And I don't know, I just feel like it's something I'm supposed to be doing. People say I'm nuts and I got a target on my forehead. But I'd like to be able to get into that if I had time on who the target really is. A lot of the conversations I have are the fact that law enforcement feels like there's a general disrespect for people in uniform in the last few years, maybe last decade or so. And they ask me why that is. And I said, well, there's a variety of things. One of them is what I believe to be the moral decline of the last free nation on earth. As we try to grasp onto every bit of freedom, or should I say trade it all in for security, in the endless creation of laws to try to keep a agitated populace safe or free. And one of the things I wanted to suggest to any law enforcement people watching is there's a different perspective. And I know some of you don't like me, and some of you have been told not to talk to me even, I bet. But it could be at your own detriment if you don't. You know, maybe I have something to offer. What I'm basically saying is that the governments have the ability to, they're known for creating crises and then coming in and being looked at as the hero. But what we fail to understand is the root cause of the issue, which governments never seem to focus on, or they think they do. And the perspective I wanted to share with you is the increasing lack of trust between citizens and law enforcement, or government in general. Law enforcement is just a byproduct of the whole issue. In other words, it's the first interaction, as I've mentioned before, that the law-abiding citizens have with their government, and the frustration that they feel through watching the news and reading the newspaper and all that, and then going to work and getting a ticket for a seatbelt or some minor infraction explodes into something that it probably never should have. And it's just because of the agitation or the enmity that's being created between law enforcement and its citizens. In reality, this isn't the law enforcement's fault. I would say that, to some degree, it isn't even the citizens' fault. The people are ignorant, for sure, but the people are also fearful. They're angry. And what do people do when they're fearful? They might act on their emotions, and they might do something that might lack maybe logic and common sense, or maybe the exact proper way to do something, and they may look a little bit, I don't know, extreme, I guess. The people also don't feel like they don't have any redress. We have the largest incarceration rate in the entire world. The answer that our government has is to be able to build more prisons, to take more of our tax money and build more prisons, rather than realizing that creating laws doesn't really prevent crime. Sure, it's a deterrent of sorts, but ultimately law was meant, from what I understand, to punish people that committed crimes, and that governments were created to actually protect the rights of the people for future generations. We know since the 1930s or beyond that, before that, we have an increasing amount of laws, and nobody is even asking about what restrictions should there be on government to be able to maximize the freedom of the people. And very few people that I know even mention the fact that the Constitution was that limitation. And yet, in talking to many of them, they believe that the Constitution is just up for a random opinion. My version of the Constitution is different than yours, and everybody has a different version of the Constitution. To me, it seems like it would be a recipe for chaos if 300 million people could look at a Constitution 300 million different ways and have them all be accepted. That's why chaos is becoming more the norm rather than the exception. The more laws we have, the more arbitrary they are. We become a more relative society. So I guess what I'm saying is with the continual influence and writing of laws by our legislature that admits not to writing laws, or not to reading the laws before they pass, create arbitrary and boundless power. And we all know that they're corrupt. We know it. The mainstream media would never lie. I mean, just look at some of these things. Benghazi, IRS, healthcare, Common Core, National Defense Authorization Act, Patriot Act, TSA, Amnesty, Ebola, the 1033 exchange program, information from the Southern Poverty Law Center, secret trade mergers, passing bills without even seeing them, calling Americans stupid, the increasing militarization of police and wars, and the amount of the wars that we're in. And these are just some of the issues. We can go into the Federal Reserve and the 16th and 17th Amendment. And what we basically find out is a lot of the well-meaning law enforcement folks, they want to do the right thing, and they want to uphold the law. And many of them just aren't taught about the Constitution. So basically we have a recipe for disaster. And so what I feel like I need to do is I need to visit with all of the county sheriffs and police chiefs and mayors and commissioners as I travel the state, and to try to encourage them and empower them and let them know that I'm not the enemy. I'm somebody that really focuses on this because I want my freedom, and I want your freedom for you, even if you're not willing to fight for it yourself. I also want my law enforcement, which are our neighbors, our friends, our mothers, fathers, children. They all deserve to go home safe. And what's the recipe for that? Well, I believe what it is, first of all, is acknowledging the fact that some of us have taken time to be able to understand the law and the Constitution, and understanding those limitations, and that we're not the enemy. As a matter of fact, when we're characterized as constitutionalists, who's really the constitutionalist when it was the government agencies that have sworn the oath, not us? All our job as citizens is to hold government accountable for their usurpation of authority. And then somehow we're slammed for it. You know, this is it's kind of like scripture. There's a scripture that's commonly misunderstood, and men feel like they can treat women as doormats. In reality, men were supposed to be the head of the household, like it or not. That's what scripture says. But it seems a little bit strange that we were the inherent power in the constitutional republic, to the point where if we believed that government became tyrannical to these ends, it was our ability to abolish it. I mean, that's what our documents say. It's not me. And so what we see is a tremendous role reversal. And I think a lot of it happens to be because a lot of us are well-intended, but we're just busy and we've been misled. So basically what I wanted to do is to be able to clarify the fact that, you know, it isn't necessarily the people's fault because they disrespect law enforcement, when it could perhaps be the fact that the enmity that is being created between law enforcement and the citizens is actually created by an entity that's controlling both. And what agency would that be? Well, I'd submit that it's probably our legislature or one of the other branches that have the controlling strings on how that works. Anyway, I'm 9 minutes. I should probably stop. I could go on for hours, as you know. But I love my Idahoans. I love my freedom. And I just don't want to be misunderstood. We're living in a world of misconceptions and mischaracterizations. I think it's time to end that. God bless you guys. Bye.